We call the meeting to order. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody. Also, if you've got your phone on, please put it on silent. Next item we have is prayer. Commissioner Stephen.
Okay, this morning I'm going to read a prayer by George Washington. It's a prayer that he prayed before they went into battle at Valley Forge. Almighty God, we make our earnest prayer that thou wilt keep the United States in thy holy protection, that thou wilt graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Grant our supplications, we beseech thee, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. Okay, roll call. Also starting with Commissioner Stephen.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Smith here. Mr. Dove.
Here.
Mr. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Culberson.
Here.
Everybody's present. Okay, on public comment, before we get started, I got someone that did sign up. Steve Vernon. Come on up, Steve. How you doing?
Thank you, sir. Steve Vernon, Stranger Township. I want to thank the commissioners for their time and effort in doing what you do. It takes something. First thing I want to say, thank you to the county administrator. The check register is much more readable now than it used to be. I'm not too sure exactly who did that. But as a citizen of Leavenworth County, I appreciate that. Having said that, most of the entrants on the check registry were redacted. If anybody's looking at it, I'd be curious to know why they were redacted at some point in time. Primary reason I am here is on behalf of American Legion Post 41, Tonganoxie, Kansas. I submitted a letter. I don't know how many of the commissioners actually read it, but the history of the United States militia, and I'm glad the prayer was from George Washington, is based on citizen volunteers not being paid. Tonganoxie American Legion Post 41 wants to honor that by trying to sponsor a scholarship drive for the fire departments of Stranger Township, Tonganoxie Township, and the city of Tonganoxie. Stranger Township has no paid firefighters. Tonganoxie Township has one paid firefighter. The city of Tonganoxie has approximately 5 individuals who are paid there and are heavily reliant on both part-time firefighters and volunteers. You have the initial letter. I am not here we are not here asking the commission for any taxpayer dollars. I'm asking for something much more valuable, your time. That letting the county agencies know what's going on and to share this information with your supporters, etc. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments.
And just to follow up on that, I'll have our legal counsel explain the redactions.
I can do that, Commissioner. Actually, we pay jurors for their time, and when we send those checks out, we redact the name of the jurors.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Good answer. Okay. Is anyone else who'd like to address the governing body? So raise your hand. Please come on up.
No, you did not.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Yes, you too. Good morning. I want to talk about the current.
The name.
Oh, sorry, Trina Guilford.
Okay, thank you.
I want to talk about the current proposed RHID. Why would this proposed RHID not have an adverse effect? 6 years of handing over tax money to an out-of-state developer, and there will be no local builders, electricians, or plumbers, etc., to gain the work within the subdivision. The Hakes brothers seems to be who is tied to Circle H as their builder. And I did a little bit of research on Hakes brothers and have found the majority of the information available on the internet is derogatory. Lawsuits, not finishing the houses, faulty electricity, HVAC problems, you name it, there's all kinds of things. There's YouTube videos with one subdivision from New Mexico or in New Mexico where people have recorded their complaints and their issues with the slowness of getting those things corrected. And basically the runaround they're getting, not very positive at all. Reddit also has a ton of information that is pointing towards negativity as well. Why would we want a subdivision built by a builder with those things stacked up against them? What does that leave for our community here? If this is approved, taxpayers are going to be very upset after Leavenworth County, City of Lansing, and USD 469 raised mill levies, and along with that, some appraised values that is increasing our taxes, but then turn around and give tax money to an out-of-state developer. What does this say to you, or what does this say to your taxpayers? Money out of their pockets is okay to hand over to an out-of-state developer with what benefit to the taxpayers, except ongoing frustration, anger, hopelessness, as a majority of taxpayers struggle already to just make ends meet. They're having to choose what basics they must have. They're choosing between utilities being paid or their medicine, gas or food, diapers and formula. The list goes on and on. In addition, this RHID subdivision does not meet the current standards of the Maples, which subdivision Monroe Manor will back up to. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Sure.
Anyone else like to address the governing body? Okay, John, come on up. If you want to, I'm old, so raise your hand. I'll try to get you up here. Good morning.
Morning. John Redden. So I went to the July 16th, 2025 City of Lansing Planning Commission meeting, which covered the proposed Monroe Manor subdivision. And this occurred during the period when the small lot Riverbend Heights project was in play in our rural area. And so I wanted to see what was going on, and I was hoping that I'd see a small lot subdivision playing correctly. I was very disappointed in what I saw and heard. The proposed Monroe Manor subdivision is nestled among the existing Maples and Willows neighborhoods, where each lot is approximately a third of an acre. But the size of the proposed 194 Monroe Manor lots are approximately 0.15 acres or less than half the size of the existing neighborhood lots. Furthermore, the City of Lansing has recently revised their building codes to allow 40-foot wide lots with 5-foot setbacks from the house to the property line. So that results in a 30-foot wide house, and there'll only be 10 feet of separation between houses, 10 feet between houses. This subdivision, with no basements, will resemble a cluttered trailer park in the midst of existing nice neighborhoods, and this will compromise this area of Lansing. Now, page 8 of the 2023 Lansing Housing Needs Analysis states, Lansing lacks higher-end housing. Significant opportunity exists in excess of $600,000 a house. Page 38 says, overall, the city has a very good supply of moderately priced homes, but appears to have an undersupply of higher-end homes for a city with Lansing's income characteristics. Page 46 states, the Lansing needs 168 conventional single-family homes and 168 small homes for a total of 336 units. But the Monroe Manor developer is proposing 196 small lot houses, no conventional houses. In February of this year, Circle H Holdings of Round Mound, Texas, purchased the land from Riley for $745,000 to build Monroe Manor. The purchase was not contingent upon the buyer obtaining an RHID. At the July 16th Monroe Manor planning meeting, the developer provided a detailed site plan, soils report, and a thorough stormwater management plan prepared by SMH Consultants. A completed traffic study was also developed by Merge Midwest Engineering. This well-developed engineering is estimated to cost in excess of $500,000. At the July 16th Planning Commission meeting, there was no mention or discussion about an RHID. The City of Lansing staff report that was available on the city's website before the July 16th meeting also made no mention about an RHID. The July 16th meeting concluded with the unspoken understanding that Circle H was prepared to begin construction as soon as possible and was prepared to assume the risk of their business decisions without the need for an RHID. It appears that the RHID was only discussed between the Circle H and the city after the July 16th meeting, when the Riverbend Heights RHID was approved by the city of Lansing, and development incentive funds were clearly on the table. The estimated development costs, including land purchase, is estimated by Circle H to be $11.7 million, which includes $850,000 of contingencies. The total requested RHID is a little over $3 million, or 25% of the estimated development costs. Okay, so let's do some brief math. $11.7 million divided by 194 houses, that's about $60,000 of development cost per lot. The average selling price of an approved lot to a house builder in the Kansas City area is approximately $85,000. So the approximate profit per developed lot for Circle H is going to be about $25,000 per lot. $25,000 times 194 lots equals $4.85 million. So where's the need for an RHID? The bottom line is that Monroe Manor will be built with or without an RHID, and it will be a perpetual embarrassment to the surrounding neighborhood and testify to the exploitive nature of Lansing city government as it pursues its main goal to increase its tax base to the detriment of its residents. Okay, so bottom line is, although this RHG will not harm the county financially, the county of Leavenworth will be financially better off without the RHID.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you.
I have a question for John.
John, got a question.
You made a statement from that July 16th meeting about some kind of a comment about being prepared to assume the risk. Was that a statement made at the meeting, or was that where did you get that statement?
It was, well, there was no discussion about an RHID. They had spent the money to buy the land. They had spent the money on very, very complete and sophisticated engineering analysis for the stormwater management plan and the traffic and the soils report, and so they were fully prepared to break ground the next day if they were given the authorization. There was no discussion, no mention whatsoever, no hint about an RHID. In fact, I have that packet of information that was on the city's website. I'll leave it with you. There's no mention. This was given out at the July 16th meeting. There's no mention in here at all about an RHID. This covers the project, and there's no mention about an RHID. You can make copies of that, and I also have copies of the subdivision, and you can see the maples and the willows lots in surrounding. And they're much bigger. It's a travesty. It's a real embarrassment, and it's going to compromise Lansing, and it will be a perpetual testimony to planning gone wrong.
Okay, Mike, you have anything else?
No.
Okay, appreciate your comments, Vanessa.
Mr. Laffrey, could we get a copy of what Mr. Stephen has, just so we all have the same thing currently in real time, if possible?
I'll give it back.
A lot of it's been in your packet, too. It's a repeat, absolutely.
Anyone else in the audience like to? Yes, ma'am. Come on forward, please. Hi, Betty.
Good morning. I'm Betty Klein-Denson here on our favorite subject. I am opposed to any RHID, and this one in particular. When Riley bought it from the family that owned it for many years, it was not bought with the intentions of needing an RHID to develop. Riley has now apparently sold it to somebody else. Again, no discussion that RHID would be required to develop. So when it was bought initially from the family that had owned it for many years, they planned on developing it as is. So there's no sense in us giving up taxpayers' dollars for something that would have happened anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Come on forward. Good to see you again.
Good seeing you, sir. Or to her. Hi, my name is Sarah George. Ready for my time to begin?
I'll start when you start.
Oh, you will? Thank you very much. Okay, great. Okay, good morning. As commissioners, you are charged with the financial health of our county, and the decisions you make have to make dollars and cents. I realize lots of our emotional pleas to you really don't land well where you guys have to make financial decisions. So that's why I'm here to discuss math with you. You have a large corporate developer based out of Texas, and they are asking for a large kickback for a development that they value at $60 million. The home builder is not local either. They are based in New Mexico, Texas, and now they've opened a small office here in Lansing for window dressing. They want $3 million from the city and county to subsidize development issues that pre-existed when they purchased the property for development, calling them shallow rock and dense timber. So knowing this, they already knew what these development issues were. The numbers of their 194 homes from their presentation a few weeks ago yields a gross profit of about $60 million. So this developer, or $60 million valuation, this developer is asking for $3 million of tax dollars for development costs that otherwise would have been expenses. Now, most of you here are businessmen or women and have run businesses. So you understand that if you have an expense, that detracts from your profit. So they want $3 million to pay for expenses that they would normally have had. So what they're really asking you to do is to give our tax dollars to keep for additional profit. That's why our HID is bad for taxpayers. They are not providing additional investment. $11 million is the cost of development. With $3 million in taxes, they only have to pay $8 million, leaving them with $3 million additional profit, which is a total of 25% profit, much higher than a normal development. That's why they're here, putting on beautiful, cute, happy, glad faces and lovely presentations, because they stand to make a whole lot more than they would on a regular development. Typical profit for land developers is 20%. So from $60 million, 20% would be $12 million profit. By giving them $3 million, you're effectively providing them with 25% profit, $15 million. You can't say you need more taxes and then raise taxes and in the same breath give taxes to a developer. Please keep our tax dollars local and use them for their intended purposes, for city and county costs of infrastructure, first responders, schools, etc., not for private, non-local developers. For instance, that fire department in Tongi, they sure could use additional dollars. I've seen the check register. You guys run on a very tight budget, so it doesn't make sense to give $3 million away like that. You know better than I do that you have a tax pool from which to address city and county needs as they arise. And if you voluntarily reduce your tax pool by giving tax dollars away, you do not have the resources to address needs that will inevitably arise. We need these tax dollars to be allocated to cover the city's necessary and predictable costs of increased population on traffic, roads, police, EMS, schools, sewer, and waste management. Taxes are collected to support the affected tax base, not to benefit a particular developer or development area. It makes no sense to saddle the taxpayers with an expense which belongs to a developer. That is not the purpose of local government. A final note, I did research here in Kansas and in some of the surrounding states. Never has a city reduced its tax burden on citizens by increasing housing development, because the developments come with increased services requirements. It's a fallacy to think that if you bring in people, taxes will go down. They never have. Now, personally, I don't really like this development because it is not reflective of the character of surrounding neighborhoods. So this is where I have 58 seconds to put in some emotional arguments here. One reason is they say that this is supposed to be for families. This development has no parks in it. The nearest park is 1.5 miles away. That's a 25-minute walk. I know because I also live not near a park. And so that's 25 minutes that I am not going to let my kids walk by themselves 25 minutes to go to a park. But a development that's made for families, which has no parks in it, really makes no sense, especially if it's so tightly constricted and dense that you're going to have a lot of traffic going. It is not safe for kids. This development does not match the character of the housing around them. It is based upon faulty assumptions, and it is not based on the desires of the citizens of Lansing. I'm asking you to please don't give our tax dollars to a developer. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Come on forward.
Tom Lahan, Lansing City resident. I'll speak in favor of the RHID. A city either grows or it dies. And Lansing this year, I believe, has 1 new residential construction. Over the past 2 years, 4. That is not growth. We need the additional 190 some odd houses to share the burden. If we don't have additional housing units to tax, then the residents that are currently paying taxes are obviously just going to have to pay more and more since taxes go up every year. Haven't seen them come down recently. But so tax-wise, if I understand this correctly, your decision today needs to be whether or not the county can live with a reduced income from those 194 houses during the first 7 years of the construction process. I'm also wondering what exactly the county provides to the city of Lansing financially that would come into play with the reduced income to the county for the 6 or 7 year period. The quality of the houses is not in question. That's not your determination. The city of Lansing has approved the plan. The city of Lansing has code officials. They will make the decision whether or not the house is a safe property for residential occupancy. So I'm really a little confused about why all this other banter when the question you guys have to address is, can you live with the reduced county income from those properties for the first 6 or 7 years?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir. Anyone else like to address the governing body? Okay, going once? Okay, come on down. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Bill Page. I live in Lansing. I live directly across the street from where this new community will dump itself onto the street. And I am here not to talk too much about the finances of it, but I'm here to talk about the destruction of a neighborhood. There is 3 neighborhoods right there that are going to be impacted by this. One is mine, which is a little small piece of about 10 houses near the corner of where Dillon's is on Eisenhower, just a little bit south of there. And then there's the community next to the golf course, and then there's the woodlands, which is where I used to live. And all of that is just really nice, beautiful housing with nice, big, spacious yards. And there is a very lovely walkway through the middle, on the edge of the golf course community to the west of it. All of that is going to go away by necessity simply for traffic ways, and it's going to be just changed. I don't think anybody, when they voted you guys in, I don't think anybody said, please come in and wreck up my neighborhood. Nobody said that. And you're going to put in substandard housing, which is what it is, and it's going to be made extra cheap, supposedly, so people can move into it and build their families there. The houses are not big enough for growing families. The school system currently does not support that kind of influx of people. And I was very interested in hearing John Redden's description of it, good friend of mine, where he said that community will be nestled in between all those communities. And I object to that word nestled, John. When the neighbor's dog comes over and defecates in my yard, I do not go out and say, oh, look at what has been nestled into my yard. This is something that I don't want there. If there was a need for that kind of housing would be showing up. The market will speak. I've heard over and over again different people from different developers, the city manager, other folks come in here and say, what we really need is this kind of housing or that kind of housing. I've never seen a place that has such a lack of this kind of housing. It's all jacked up. We've got to fix it. If that kind of housing was necessary in the Leavenworth area, somebody would be building it because somebody would want to buy it. The idea that we are going to create a bunch of houses there that do not match the community will not help the community. And by golly, if you don't know that without any doubt, those houses are not going to wind up being owned by individual people. They're going to wind up as rental houses, which will be kept up at a bare minimum cost to provide profit for the people who have bought them as a group and is renting them out. That's just the way these kinds of things work. Now, I'm sorry to be all downer on this, but this is just not the way to develop a community. And the idea that a community either grows or dies is simply untrue. That is a platitude that we have grown to accept. It is not true. Everybody in this room is an adult. Not a one of us is growing, except maybe growing out. And none of us are dead, not yet. And that is true in anatomy, and that is true in societies. Societies flourish when they're given the chance to develop better as they are. You don't have to have growth. Growth is not just this mindless thing that you keep getting bigger and bigger, and somehow that's going to make everything work better. Cancer is growth, but it's bad for you. And that's how I view this whole idea that you're going to put something there, and then you put on top of that the idea that we're going to actually pay somebody through our tax dollars to do that for them, to give us this thing that your people don't want, so that somebody can make some money somewhere. I didn't even realize, as bad as it was, one of these ladies talked about these are out-of-state developers, and they've bought the land, and they've put an office here, and they're not even local guys that we can be mad at later. They're just going to come in, mess it up, and leave. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Yes, sir.
Can I have one more thing?
Make it quick.
I'll make it very quick. Steve Vernon, Stranger Township. This grandson of a dryland farmer and a day laborer kind of supports the RHID concept. The individuals that are going to be living here, I'm not too sure what the Lansing city taxes are. Leavenworth has a 1% sales tax. The individuals that live in these places are going to be shopping in Lansing and Leavenworth County. They're not going to be going to Zona Rosa. They're not going to be going to the PX commissary. And they're not going to be going to Legends. So when you consider the math on all of these RHID projects and understanding that government at every level plays a beggar thy neighbor game, this concept is probably not a bad one in its totality, and there is an avenue for revenue increases by people that are going to live, shop, and worship in Leavenworth County as opposed to Johnson County or on post. Thank you.
Thank you.
So want to follow up since you're one of my constituents. I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
If you were sitting up here, would you objectively try to draw a line? Because we're going to have a line of people wanting RHIDs. Would you try to determine an objective standard for when you're going to support an RHID and when you're not?
Yes, sir, I would. And it would have to deal with underdeveloped property specifically within city boundaries, and properties that would provide citizens who, again, are going to live, shop, and worship in Leavenworth County, Lansing, Tonganoxie, or wherever, as opposed to shopping in Zona Rosa or the Legends or even on Post.
And would you consider one of the things, and when we're doing zoning, we consider it's called the character of the neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
You would take that into account?
Yes, I find most of these projects are a lot closer to maintaining the character of the neighborhood as opposed to a project just west of Tonganoxie where they drained 3 park ponds to put a large residential subdivision in where there were even doubts about the pipe size and the water lines that were being piped all the way from the Kansas River to the city of Tonganoxie.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to address the governing body? Thank you. Okay, let's move on. County clerk, is she here today? I didn't see her.
Not today.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Some election stuff going on.
Okay, very good. Mark, you have anything?
Not for administrative business.
Mike, you have something? Administrative business?
Just a quick question from Mr. Lawfrey. You gave us the update for the mid report as far as monthly where we're at on the county budget. Have you had a chance to review this yourself?
Yes.
If you were looking at our overall county budget and expenditures as far as where we're on target and where we're not on target, what would your overall analysis of our fiscal year 25 budget be right at this moment?
Well, first, Commissioner, I just want to make sure to point out that wasn't in the packet. That was in your inboxes. It's a monthly report that Jennifer put in your inboxes. So some of you may not have had a chance to see it yet.
We just got it.
Put that out there. In my review, I think sometimes it's difficult to look at the numbers and say, oh, because if you just apply a percentage, like you take the budget divided by 12, when you look at some of those, you may think, oh my gosh, they're way overspending. Well, a lot of those items have expenditures that come out once a year, and they come out at the beginning of the year. Or you may look at it and say, man, they haven't spent any of their budget. They have expenditures that come out towards the end of the year. In my opinion, when I look through it, I don't see anything that's of concern right now. I do believe we have some budgets that are very tight, and I think when we get close to December, we're going to have to evaluate those. I think we've been in here talking about that, but there are a few budgets that may need to be amended before the end of the year because they will likely exceed their budgeted amount.
And just for the public information, can you outline what the 2 or 3 largest budgets are?
The largest budgets?
The 2 or 3 largest budgets.
So the largest budget is the 2 largest budgets are Public Works and the Sheriff's Department. Those are the 2 largest. And then I believe EMS is the 3rd. It's close between them and probably Council on Aging.
And of those large budgets, which one is the closest that you're looking at for being our?
I think the Sheriff's Department historically is always the closest.
Okay. Thank you.
No, Mike. I have nothing. Willie, do you have anything? Vanessa? Okay. Jeff, do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. Moving along then, consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on it? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 All righty. We'll go into formal board action. Consider a motion to approve Resolution 2025-34, establishing a placement of a 4-way stop sign at the intersection of 211th and McIntyre Road. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today, for your consideration, we do have a analysis that was completed by Olson Engineering at that intersection. While the traffic rates and the accident rates are extremely low, they have had a single fatality and a secondary accident that was pretty significant. But what it does have is a lack of line of sight when the corn is in. There is no line of sight for northbound traffic looking east. It is below the stop sign, the speed limit sight triangle. And so when the corn is in the field, it does create that issue. So today, for your consideration, we do have a four-way stop sign that would require the removal of some asphalt to get the stop sign placed in the right location in the southeast quadrant. So unlike some other stop sign issues that we've addressed in the past, this one will not be up tomorrow necessarily, but it will be up in the probably the next week and a half, because we will have to call in a utility locate and then saw cut some of that asphalt out and dig it out with the backhoe and remove it in order to get the stop sign placed in the correct location.
Well, first of all, Bill, I appreciate you getting on it so quick. It's a shame it takes something like this before we can get going on something. So the information you got to us in a very timely manner, and I know the people that brought that to us are very grateful. With that being said, do we have any discussion on this item?
I'll make a motion.
Mike, go ahead.
I move to approve Resolution 2025-34, establishing a placement of a four-way stop sign at the intersection of 211th and McIntyre Road.
Second. Got a bunch of seconds. Any more discussion?
Well, I'll just say that I've been contacted by a number of residents, including school bus drivers, including people that have had their children there and have been endangered or have felt that they were endangered. And this is a very, very important action that we are going to take today. And these are the little things we do, but this is important. And I'm glad the traffic study came through, and I'm glad we're moving ahead.
Anybody else?
Is there I noticed, Bill, that you said there was a problem with the cornfield. Is hindering line of sight. Is this four-way stop sign take care of that?
Yeah, the stop sign will allow people to come to a complete stop at the intersection, so then you'll be able to see back east. The issue is if you're driving north and you're in the Stranger Bottoms there, with it being very flat and the corn being so tall, as you're approaching the stop sign, if you're traveling through the intersection northbound, is one of the main issues. You have lane crossover. So unless you yield to oncoming traffic, which would be the proper traffic safety measure that you should take as a driver, you can't see those cars coming. So if you just continue northbound, then you could impact a driver who's coming westbound going south because you can't see them coming.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
That's good.
One question
Mike,
for our county councilor. People call and ask and say, well, why can't you just put up a stop sign? Why can't you just make these decisions quickly? Can you kind of go over what the law is about placement of stop signs and signage on the roadways?
Yes, Commissioner, I can, and it goes to speak to the general sort of litigative society that we live in. So when you place a stop sign, there's a duty to make sure that you're placing it, or any type of sign, that you're doing it with the engineering standards that are prevalent at the time, and that the signs aren't actually making the matter worse. So there's a series of case laws where governments have been sued because they didn't conduct a traffic study or have an engineering analysis to show that that's actually the correct sign that goes there. It's not just stop signs, it's speed limits, different types of signs. So it does sort of it slows the process down and requires traffic studies when we're placing certain signs.
I know I've had a lot of calls about Fairmont Road where the speed drops down to 35 miles an hour, and people say, well, why don't you just stick a sign up changing that? Well, it's not that simple. We have to do a complete study, and it costs a lot of taxpayers' money.
On that same note, I think that that road was signed years ago under old standards. If it was reevaluated under today's new standards, there's the potential that the speed limit could go down. And that's what people don't understand when they ask us to increase speed limits, that under new standards, there's a potential, not necessarily absolute, but there is a potential that the speed limits could go down.
Yeah, but
I'm very unhappy about that.
Yeah, but on top of that, too, it also goes to the point that citizens, when they reach out to us and they come and appear before us, we will get that in the right hands to take a look at it. It might not be the answer you want, but in this case, it was, to me, a no-brainer that we should be doing this. So I think it's important for everybody who's watching or here today, reach out to us, come speak before us, and let us take a look at it. We don't see everything all the time, even though people think we do and we should know. And when this came forward to me, just through an email, a young person and a couple other family members, I didn't realize how bad that was. So please reach out to us. That's all I have. Anything else?
I would also just state that these aren't free. We have to hire a firm to do these, and I don't know the final on this one was the cost.
I was told it was going to cost us $8,000 to $10,000.
I guess bottom line is, what's a life worth?
If we have 1,000 intersections in the county to study each one of them, I guess that's.
We can't do them all.
Well, I don't think we can do them all, but
Right.
I think we know we had an issue, or we've been suggested to us that those are priority. And I'm glad to see that we're going forward with it, and hopefully the county commissioners are going to support that. Mike, you start the vote.
I just have
Go
one more
ahead.
thing. When we've expended the CARES Act funding and the ARPA funding, we've expended a lot of that on roadways in the past 5 years, and we prioritized areas that were accident prone, where we had accident counts, and when you look at where the projects are, that a lot of the reason that those projects have taken place is because of the counts. And we're trying to take into account safety on all of our roadway projects.
Okay. I'll start with
Aye.
Go ahead.
Before we
Go ahead, Willie.
Mark just put out a very good point that I think that that some of us hear and we aren't really listening to it, is that now it's going to cost about $10,000 to do this project, which was not put into the budget ahead of time.
Correct.
So it's going to cost us even more dollars up front. So constituents need to realize that when these things come up, we did not anticipate another $10,000 debit.
Okay. Anything else, folks? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Next one is item B, Monroe Manor RHID project. Come forward, guys.
Hold on to your panties.
Uh-huh.
Hold on to your panties.
Hey, Willie. Welcome.
Thank you. Morning. I think is this one working okay?
Yeah. Sometimes you got to put them close, though. It's just the way the system is set up.
Will do.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. I know that we've gone through this information, and you have it in your packets to review, and I'm certain you have. But I just want to thank you for having us in here to have a final discussion on this with the commissioners and Chairman Smith. So we appreciate that, and also the support of the county administrative staff and just making sure numbers are correct, things tie out with not only the RHID tax revenue piece, but also the expenses that, as someone mentioned earlier, as you bring people into community, it costs services to the county and city and others. And so we wanted to make sure we accounted for those expenses accurately. And so we appreciate the help of the county staff here with making sure those numbers are correct. So with that, I'll probably, in the midst of this, hopefully address some of the comments that came from the public today and previously. But I'll start with, unless you want me to just walk through the deck, I can just kind of hit the high points.
Yeah, I think so, but I think also the questions that were raised.
Okay, excellent.
Would be great to touch on so we get an answer to those.
Okay, will do. So I think just starting out with who are we in Circle H, how did we come about, why are we in Lansing, why are we in Kansas in general, and from an organizational perspective, we're a family business, and it's literally the primary contributors to that family business are sitting here at the table. It's me and my son Dagenhan, and then his younger brother also helps us in other ways, marketing and so forth. So it's not a large corporate development company from Texas. It's far from it. And it's a family business with only family as employees, and a family that lives in Kansas City, and an owner being myself who is from Kansas my entire life and currently live in Lawrence, Kansas. And so my entire family's here. So Kansas has been important to me since I was born and raised here, and also now even that I'm grown and I'm here again. I lived in Texas for about 20 years, but lived back in Lawrence here. And again, 3 of my 4 kids also reside in Kansas City. So we're not a large corporate development trying to come into community and take advantage of the state of Kansas and programs like RHID or the Lansing community or any other community for that matter. And so I wanted to at least square that away on what we are and who we are is not maybe what may be reflected here and maybe what it looks like. With regards to tax dollars and giving community tax dollars, whether it's county, city, or USD 469, this is not a taking of anything. This is a contribution and a risk-taking from a development standpoint and an investment from a county and city perspective. And with that investment, meaning Monroe Manor and the RHID program, is an opportunity to generate, as they were saying, I think some numbers have gotten mixed up, but the $60 million number that you continue to hear is not our profitability. The $60 million is what market capital is created for you to tax in perpetuity. And with that, when the development's completed, you will have $60 million of tax base to tax, like I said, in perpetuity, which will generate roughly about $1 million a year in tax revenue. And so this is not a taking from the community. This is a creating opportunities for the community to generate incremental tax and spend those on things like the streets and the things that you've talked about in other meetings and what you've heard from some of the public here. Also contributing to budget deficits that exist in USD 469 that we've heard about multiple times as we've attended many of those meetings as well. So it's an opportunity for all three of the entities, city, county, and USD 469 to generate more tax revenue. With that, there's been discussions from public about whether this is going to go into place. We're going to have to increase our mill levies. We're going to have to increase, and taxes are going to go up. This actually does the exact opposite. It prevents you from needing to go find other means like bonds to generate the $1 million of tax revenue that you'll generate from this program or this development Monroe Manor. And so it actually does the exact opposite of increasing mill levies and so forth. It gives you the opportunity to either remain at your current level or, as I said, very seldom do you see them go down, but at least maintain at your current level and still be able to address some of the community, county, and USD 469 needs that currently exist. And so when I think of the tax dollars, I just want to make it very clear that this is not taking. The only pot that the RHID dollars come out of are dollars that are created by the RHID district, not taking from any other sources of tax revenue. With regards to why Lansing, why this piece of ground, I think when you look at the housing study, you can clearly see why Lansing, and with regards to, and we could get into the real specifics of the traffic, or not the traffic study. I'm sorry, of the housing study, but clearly from pages 41 to 46, it states very clearly what their suggestions are, and it is we need roughly 600 homes. Of those, 364 of them need to be single family. Others are multifamily and other things. But of those, 364 of those need to be single family. And then of those, roughly 218 to 220 would be single family conventional and small lot. And when they define what conventional and small lot, it's very much defined on the two things. One, the demographics of the individuals that will be purchasing these homes, conventional and small lot. And second is the value of the home, and so those are obviously tied closely together. And so when you look at the study, and you can see in the packet where I've highlighted, the highest percentage of the single family need, based on the housing study, is squarely on conventional single family, small lot single family. Clearly states that, and that's about 60 to 65% based on the study of the total demand. And so. That's where the design of this, when we speak about engineering, why was it engineered this way, why did we pick this piece of land particularly? This piece of land was sold to us because it was undevelopable. The individual that held this land for years has not developed it for a reason. And there's a lot of specific characteristics of this land that require it to be, that require more development, i.e. high rock, topography, lots of timber. Those are types of things that contribute to escalating development cost. And when you start to bake all those in, you can see why it hasn't been developed. However, the housing study clearly stated that developments that are outside the community, that are maybe south on K7, those that will not contribute to the growth of the community, because many of those individuals will go elsewhere to spend their dollars, whether it's groceries or gas or other things that they'll spend in the community. The suggested ideal location for these developments based on the housing study is infill development. And two reasons for that. One is if you put infill development, then you keep your dollars here that are being spent, you keep them here in the community, thus generating more tax revenue on the sales tax in other areas. And two is it keeps the cost of the services that are needed to support these new residents minimal, as they're part of the community. You're not having to put more bus routes and more cops to patrol out somewhere that's not necessarily part of the city. And so, for those two reasons, this ground that's an infill development is ideal and exactly matches what the housing study suggested. I think from that, I would probably go to the why are we just now starting to talk about RHID? And it's been mentioned a few times. And I know we talked about this roughly a few weeks ago when we were here, but I wanted to reemphasize that we were the first RHID district established in Lansing. While I know there's been many that have come through before us, we were the first. And so we didn't just come up with this idea. We've been having these discussions long before engineering and studies were done. However, based on the guidance that was provided by this governing body for RHIDs, it's clearly stated that there needs to be plans in place. There needs to be a clear understanding of what the product will be, meaning, size of lots, types of homes, what's the builder's elevations look like. We've taken individuals from the economic development team in Lansing and the mayor and the city councilman to go actually walk through these homes so they could see the quality of these homes. But back to the guidance from the county, we needed to have those things in place to accurately come and share with you exactly what this development looks like. And without doing the studies, without doing the engineering, there's no way for us to come with accurate numbers. And so for us to come to you with accurate numbers that we know aren't generalized or assumptions, but rather specific to this development, we had to go through that work. And so this was not a last minute thought. This was an initial thought and was on the table from the very beginning with the city of Lansing. And so the reason for this ask, and it's highlighted in some of the information that you have, but it's because of the things that I've already shared. The development of this land is going to be challenging just because of the topography and we've done the geotech studies, so we know what's under the dirt. That are going to cause challenges. And even since we started these discussions 18 months ago with the city of Lansing, prices have continued to skyrocket with regards to trades, whether it's plumbers and and framers and all the involved. And so it's to account for that. And to answer the question on is this project feasible without the RHID? And I would say this project is very much on ice without RHID, because what's going to happen is if the RHID is not approved, we will have to go and increase our pricing to our home builders for the lots, because we were accounting for this as we negotiated with the home builders. And that's going to trickle down to now the home builders are going to pass that off to the potential resident or consumer. And now the product that they're going to provide is not going to match what the study dictated that was needed. And so those are the kind of the ripple effect of, it's not just about a developer trying to come in and get as much money as possible. The average returns on investments, and you can look it up anywhere and talk to any developer, 25% is the bottom, 35% is generally it's a great deal. and this one's going to fall somewhere around that 25% with the RHID. And so I think that hits the, maybe I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
I'm looking here where it says, according to market value increases, the projected appraisal value for each of the homes proposed at $310,000. Is that's correct?
That's correct.
How much of an increase would that be without the RHID?
It will cost, if you just do the math on the RHID at 3 million and 190 homes, it's about 15,000 per home that would go, it would go up from there. So that's what we would be passing off to the home builder. They would in turn, however, whatever their math, their calculus is for the cost of lot and the construction, then they would fold that into what their offer price would be on the home.
The question he's asking, that they're just looking at as that question, it's at least 15,000
minimum. They're at least going to market up that much.
That would be the cost. It doesn't necessarily mean the appraised value.
I got
That's what I'm looking at.
I just wanted to get that question on the floor. Okay.
Cost. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Willie?
Thank you.
Okay. You guys have anything else? You ready for questions? Do you answer all the
I'm
questions
sorry.
from the public?
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I wasn't meaning to interrupt your.
Oh no, you're fine. I was wanting to pause and make sure I didn't go.
He does that. He does that once in a while with me too. Don't worry about it. I am too, Willie. Did we get the questions answered from most of them?
I believe we did. I think there's one remaining that I probably should hit on is with the schools and the capacity of the schools. That's been mentioned on a few different occasions, and I heard it again today. Fortunately, we have a very recent study that's not from us. It's from the USD 469 that was completed in, I believe it was June or July, so it's very recent data. The school system has ample, they could take on 3 of the Monroe Manors. Based on that third-party study, they have the capacity to take on 600 more students. And the other side of that is, hey, do you have the capacity? But the second question is what if we don't do it? What happens? What if there is no development, whether it's Monroe Manor or another? What does the numbers look like at the school? And what is, because of birth rates and because of other effects that are happening just in our society, they will lose greater than 200 students in the school district in the next coming years. And so this is a backfill of students that you know you're going to lose already. And so we're not even really even nudging up on the 600 extra capacity that you have over and above. This is keeping your funding and your student counts at a constant level, so the funding and USD 469 can continue to do what they need to do as well.
Okay, are you ready for
Thank
questions?
you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, who wants to start? Vanessa, you got anything? I'll let you start this time. Ready?
I don't know what I did to get that. Thank you.
You're special.
We'll discuss what type of special later. So just some questions I might already know the answers to, but in a session like this, I think it's important for everybody to hear the information, even if it's repeated.
Okay.
What year did you buy the property?
We bought it in February, I believe it's February of 25. February of 25, I believe.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the schedule correctly, it looks like it's going to be between 2031 and 2032 before potentially the county's investment, if you will, is returned and begins to be on the plus side.
Yes.
From the numbers we got, yeah.
So roughly 6 or 7 years.
Mark, you got something on that?
It's a 6-year. I left that out of what when in speaking to the county guidance that was provided, but the 15-year was said to potentially lead to adverse effects. We tried very hard to keep this as short as possible, so the investment is up front, and you start to reap the benefits of that investment sooner rather than 15 or 20 years later, like maybe some of the others you've seen.
Mark, do you have input on that?
Commissioners, I don't know if you want me to go over our presentation or not now, or you want to wait, or
we can wait. We can wait. Vanessa, do you have anything else?
As far as character of the neighborhood, I guess it perplexes me a little bit, and I don't live in Lansing, but if you're on Main Street between maybe the Groggery and Pizza Hut, and you head west, those houses, the spacing between the houses, the price point of the houses, the character of the neighborhood is much different than the Woodland that you run into off of DeSoto heading east. But if you're driving in those neighborhoods, they all intersect and run together. Yeah. So I guess that talking point is perplexing to me. Of course, I think when we think of an ideal situation, some would and some would not. Let's just assume that you don't have any problem and you have plenty of time to take care of a bunch of property. Maybe you want a large lot and a large home, and maybe you want to spend over $500,000. I don't think that's our average families. And so I think that we need to be making sure that we're thinking of the people in mind that need these houses, what their needs are. Probably don't want to mow a lot of grass. They're at soccer games and stuff like that. So I think that we just need to make sure we're thinking about all sides of the residents of the city and what their various needs and wants are. So I just want to make sure we're kind of taking everything into consideration. So one thing I want to make sure that we do go over, and I guess personally I wished was a little bit more discussed. So how much money do you set to clear at the end of the day?
Set to clear?
Yeah.
It would be, and I should address the cost of selling lots. These lots, because they're smaller, don't sell when you look at an average across the Kansas City market or whatever. These are going to be below that average because we're trying to keep these as conventional single family homes. And so these lots will sell around 70,000. They're different sizes. Some of them are 8,000 square feet. Some of them are 11,000, whatever. There's different sizes. And so on average, I would say they're going to be somewhere around the 70 to 75 range is what we have agreed with our builders now. So you can see how there's a $12 million, or from our side, a nearly $9 million investment for us from a development perspective. We are assuming all the risk. If we get started and we get 50 homes into this development and find that homes aren't selling, we've assumed all of the risk. The county, city, and 469 have accepted zero of the risk. Because if the homes do not build, there's no RHID to pay. And so I want to make sure that, because I've heard that discussion a few times on, well, we're just passing it's a developer passing the risk off to the community. We're assuming all the risk. And there's only upside for county, city, and 469. Because there's no investment unless there's houses built and taxed.
What's your response to potentially being intended for families but not including parks, etc.?
Oddly enough, we are still in discussions with the Parks and Rec as soon as recent as this morning. So there are tracks there that you see. One is that they've widened the right-of-way. We've agreed to widen a couple of right-of-ways. One is around the trail. It was very clear from the community that the trail is an important piece of the community. It connects the different neighborhoods, and so we've expanded those right-of-ways to make sure that there's opportunities for us to keep the trail nice and people want to use it, and it connects the other communities. But also there's tracks there. It's labeled as Track C that has been identified for. We don't know what it's going to. We're talking to the city and the parks now, but that's what it's allocated for. This Track C is for whatever, dog parks, kids parks, park benches along the trail. It's right along the trail. If you look at the preliminary plat, you'll see that there are tracks allocated. And to further note, the green space requirements, we've doubled the amount of green space requirements that's actually required by the city code.
Okay.
So there's including that we just spoke about, but secondly, it's because of the neighborhoods around. We heard the comments. We've expanded the easements, the environmental easements between the north and the south side where the neighborhoods are from 20 to 30 feet. Well, there'll be no trees removed. So along the entire north and along the entire south borders of this Monroe Manor. We've expanded those easements as well, and so we while the lots are smaller to provide the types of product that is needed, we've done other things to try to offset putting tracks in for parks and expanding easements for the trail and for the borders of some of these other communities.
I'm a people watcher. My personality is like back of the corner watching people. So I tend to do the same thing even when I'm up here. So when someone mentioned potentially like no local participation, no local tradesmen involved in preparation of these, is that accurate?
That's not accurate. Our primary point of focus right now is we're on constant discussions with Line Weaver right now to be the general contractor for this entire project, and so we've already started to. Not everything's final with estimates and engineers and from their perspective, but we've been engaged with them on multiple occasions for this project, and our intent is to use local, and then it's from there that Hakes is a separate organization, so I can't dictate who they use as their tradesmen, but I can assure you that from the horizontal development piece, we're absolutely looking. I've engaged with Line Weaver for several months now.
And what would you say to the points brought up about
excuse me,
information that can be found on Reddit, lawsuits, not finishing houses, bad reviews on the builder?
Yeah, I mean, we did our research before we partner with home builders. We do our research, and there's some that we've chosen not to work with for some of those very reasons. And from our research, the Hakes has a lot of very positive feedback as well. They built a very nice home. We've gone to multiple other communities, not just here, but in New Mexico and other areas, to make sure before we selected them as a home builder that they was building a quality product. And it's a quality product, and I think some of the city councilmen and mayor and others that have gone and actually walked through these would confirm that. They're nice homes for in the price range that needs to be had here. But I think if you would go to answer your question directly, I'm sorry I probably didn't, but I think if you went to any home builder, you're going to see that which is the sole reason why we only do horizontal development, because of all the things that we heard about and you read about on the home builders, about every home builder. It's very challenging for them. From building the house to the warranties and everything that goes into that, they spend a lot of money and effort supporting post-sale activities, and it's very difficult, if you can imagine, to keep everyone happy. But I think you probably see similar comments on every home builder. But we feel like Hakes is a quality builder, even though they have their issues and complaints, just like all companies do.
Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Lawfrey. Let's pretend it's 2039. What, do you think this will really benefit the county?
Yeah, so again, I don't know if you want me to respond now or if you want to wait until I do the presentation portion of it, but
we can get that in a second. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Willie?
Yes, I have a question. You just made a statement that the mayor and possibly the city manager had looked into these accusations and things beforehand. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
That the mayor of Lansing and I think possibly the city administrator had looked into these accusations that were brought against the company that you're having to work with you. I think they're in the audience. Is that correct? Could you come to the podium and
Mayor Tim, sit down, please.
And while they're walking up, I can't. If that's what you heard, I don't know if they've actually spoken directly. I know they talked to him face to face as they were doing walkthroughs in other communities with those homeowners.
Okay, we got Tim here to answer.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
just
Tim.
really quick. Earlier on in the process, these guys were good enough to.
Tim Vandal, City Administrator.
Tim Vandal, City Administrator, Lansing, Kansas.
Thank you, Tim.
Drive. Early on in the process, these guys were good enough. They gave us a tour of a subdivision in Baser that Hakes Brothers is doing. It's a beautiful subdivision in Baser. I think Hakes Brothers did the subdivision in Leavenworth just a couple of years ago, and I think Hakes is doing a subdivision in Gardner as well.
Yeah.
It's probably accurate. I know, like when we'll buy washing machines or refrigerators, my wife looks at reviews online, and 99% of the reviews might be good, but you will occasionally find one bad review on something if there's 1,000 pieces of inventory out there. But from my perspective, I was really impressed with the Hakes Brothers product that we looked at in Baser. A lot of them had vaulted ceilings and a lot of upgrades that you can do. So I thought it was a pretty impressive product.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay.
I think speaking of the product, it may be a good time to mention that I heard that it was said that no basements are allowed. 18% of these homes that are built are basement capable. And so if the homeowner decides they want a larger home with the basement, that's an option for 18% of these lots.
Right.
Okay.
Remember saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
I'm going to have Mr. Vandal come back up, if you don't mind. 179 homes. So if you're saying 18%, I'm rounding 20, so 18 houses are going to be basement capable?
Now, let's assume it's 200 homes, 194, 200 homes, 20, that'd be somewhere around 40.
Oh, 40 homes.
homes.
Double that, yeah.
Yeah.
40 homes are basement capable. How many of if you're saying basement capable, we have no idea who's going to decide they want to have a basement or not, or in the end, when the development's finished, at this time, we won't know.
We do know. We could actually, if we could, you could look at the plat and our engineers could say it's these lots here, lot number 47, lot 74, because most of that's driven by the topography.
So when you're saying it's capable, you're assuming when we actually construct it, you're going to build a basement there.
If
it's basement capable, you're most likely you're going to build a basement.
I would think, and I'm speaking for Hakes, the home builder here, but I'm assuming they would want to hold those lots for people that actually want basements, as opposed to.
And there's lots of those in Kansas.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So okay, we've had a lot of people that were speaking from your community that were talking about the difference in the character of the neighborhood between the adjacent developments. The size difference of the homes, the size difference of the property.
Yep.
Can you address that?
That came up in a lot of the planning commission meetings. One of the things that our staff worked on, as well as the developer, in response to some of those comments, was a 20-foot preservation easement. So I think some of the people were concerned if they look out in their backyards, they'd see houses that don't match theirs with the 20-foot preservation easement. All of the trees that are currently on the property within that easement would be there, so there'd be a little bit of a wooded buffer between some of the properties. And I guess the other thing that I would add too, just to kind of piggyback on what was said a little bit ago, we are in discussions about adding, I think it's like a 0.25 acre park right on Winslow Trail. So I think that's really going to add to the community. And not only would Monroe Manor residents be able to use that property, but all of the residents of the adjacent properties would be able to use that as well. So I think that would really add to the neighborhood.
So another one of those discussion points has been about the RHID as far as the meeting on July 16th, that there was no mention of the RHID at that time, and was it contemplated, and I've even been told by people that it was contemplated that this would not be an incentivized development. Was that part of the discussion, that this was not going to be incentivized?
If I'm remembering the meeting correctly, I think that was a planning commission meeting, and I think the goal was to focus specifically on the subdivision, how it would be laid out and things like that. The planning commission really has nothing to do with whether or not it's an RHID.
So your position is that RHID was always on the table for this development?
That had been a discussion throughout the process, yes.
It was never discussed that it wouldn't be?
There was never any firm decision, yes or no, but we knew it was an option, yes.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Jeff?
I don't have anything.
Just a couple points before, and I think, Mark, you have a presentation on this, or you're going to speak on it in a second. Just a couple points. First of all, when we started getting in these RHIDs, I made it very clear that everyone, in my opinion, is different. Lansing's had 2 of them voted down from this body up here. One I agreed with and one I didn't. That's what the body's for. Lansing is in a position now, and all y'all know me, know I worked out there 40 years in one capacity or the other, and there is a need for housing. I know exactly where this area is located, and I know exactly what was planned in the future for this. So somebody made a comment, if you don't grow, you die. Late Mayor Bernard made that comment, and he was like a second dad to me, and I truly believe it. What we've got here, in my opinion, in front of us is a team that has come to the table doing everything that we proposed to them. In fact, doing better. The last 2 that came up from Lansing were over 15 years, and they were voted down. As the mayor said from Lansing last time, he understood that. This proposal is at a 6-year. The margin for improvement and the margin that's going to be going to the city, the county, and 469 is substantial in years coming down the thing. It was very clear to me when I was out there we needed homes for the teachers, for the police officers, for the EMS, or for the executive to come out here. Lansing has not had growth in years, and when we talk about them redoing their boundaries and their setbacks, they're doing that so they can grow. Things will never get cheaper. I don't care what people say. And there was a comment saying the mill levy's gone up. Mill levy in Lansing, except for the fire department, in the county I've been up there, has been going down except when the roof was falling. Again, the mill levy is only part of it. Your taxes go up to a certain degree, but that's another issue we have to deal with the state legislators. So I think this is a very positive thing for Lansing. They've voted on it. They've come to the table, and I've never seen Lansing ask for too much lately. I've seen it done down south. I've seen it done up north. But I've never seen Lansing come to the table and say, hey, listen, help us out here. And I think this is a win-win from everybody. That being said, Mark, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, Commissioners, first of all, I just want to say I really appreciate working with the developers and on this project, just in the approach. They were very open and transparent with everything. We met. I think the meetings in general were really positive. And we have, the Commission has voted down the 2 previous RHIDs, and so I would like to point out some of the differences this application has versus those. They're not asking for any vertical construction reimbursement. They're only looking for reimbursement of public improvements, things like the streets, the curb, gutter, sidewalks, stormwater, sewer, that kind of thing. That's what they're looking for reimbursement on, not the vertical construction, not the improvements to the lots. So that's the typical development cost. So public improvements, those of us who have been in the game for a while are familiar with all the different, they're not incentives, they're tools, but benefit districts are one of them. And if you've been around since, let's just say 2000, because it may have been longer than that for me, but in 2007, 8, and 9, there were a lot of subdivisions in this county, and probably in Lansing. I'm not familiar with Lansing as much, but I know Baser. There were subdivisions that sat vacant, and they used benefit districts to develop those for the public improvement side of it, the stormwater, the streets, and so on. The difference between an RHID and a benefit district, with a benefit district, the city takes on the responsibility, the liability, the risk. Because when those developments died and didn't occur, the payment for those improvements still had to be made. And I think, I know, Jeff, you're probably familiar with that, and Commissioner Smith, you were obviously involved with that. In fact, when we met with Baser earlier this year, they discussed how they just finalized one of the ones that was in place, I believe, 2008. It went into place. They just resolved it this year. So 17 years paying it off. And by paying it off, it means people who live in the community, like me, paid an increased tax to pay off the improvements for that development. So I'm sensitive to that. This one, the developer pays for it up front and then is reimbursed for those expenditures from the people who live in the district. And I think that they did a good job of pointing that out. It's not taxes on the rest of the community, whereas a benefit district, it's taxes on the rest of the community when they fail. In this case, it's them. They're taking on the responsibility. So I think that's the difference between some of the issues that we've addressed earlier. The other thing is, when you look at our policy, the development policy for our HIDs, they've addressed the issues in there, and they meet most of them. There were a few that no residential development is going to meet 100%, but they addressed those. So from that standpoint, I think that as staff, we could support by policy this RHID. Then we look at the financial side of it for the county. There are, in my estimations, and these are best case estimations, we won't know until the development actually occurs, but I believe there are 4 years where there will be a net negative to the county. After the 5th year, it starts to turn positive. And Commissioner Reed, to your question, at the end of it, I believe, if things go as hoped, it would be about $1.8 million to the county over what the potential cost may be. So I think that's a difference in also when you look at this versus the previous two. It's they're talking about a 6-year RHID, because of the timing of the application and everything else, it actually extends a little bit more than 6 years from today, but the reimbursement is through those 6 years.
Yeah.
And this is just me analyzing this. I think they're likely not to get the amount of money that they're estimating, because homes don't go on the tax rolls until after the first of the year that they were built. So any home built next year won't even go on the tax rolls until the following year. So I think, based on timeline, they're probably going to miss out on 1 to 1.5 years of what they're estimating, which is okay for the county because that means we get positive quicker.
Right.
It just is a risk that they're taking, which motivates them to get the streets built and houses started. So there are a lot of things that we have to evaluate and a lot of things that the commission has to take in consideration when they're voting on these RHIDs. From a financial standpoint, yes, there are some years that this has a negative impact on the county. But over the life of what we would allow, which is 15 years, there's definitely a positive to the county financially. The other concerns that were brought up today are obviously things that the commission has to weigh as well. But from a financial standpoint, I believe that this is a positive to the county over the life of it.
Commissioners, anybody else have questions?
I do have questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Lawfrey, on page number 2 of your report here, I guess the threshold question for all of this is there really a shortage in housing, and is that shortage in housing going to persist due to financial infeasibility of development in some of these locations? How do we objectively measure whether we have a housing shortage in Leavenworth County? I'm talking to bankers down south in Basel, and they're telling me we absolutely do not have a housing shortage in Leavenworth County because they're building subdivision after subdivision, not incentive.
Well, Commissioner, the only thing I can reference back to would be the housing study that Lansing completed. We don't have our own housing study for that area or for the county, but I would just refer back to what Lansing has already completed.
Okay, and I do have a copy of that right here, a Lansing housing study. And when I refer on the Lansing housing study to page 38, I can get to page 38, under the term conclusion, it says, and I'll read directly what it says, overall the city has a very good supply of moderately priced homes, but it appears to have an undersupply of higher-end homes for a city with Lansing's income characteristics. So the type of homes that are being proposed that we incentivize here, it would appear that from their own housing study, that's not exactly the type of homes that are being proposed here. These are attainable houses on slabs, most of them, and they're not the high-end housing that the Lansing housing study in the conclusion is calling for.
I don't know if excuse me, Mike, I don't know if I agree with that. Being out there all those years, I can tell you, if there's a realtor that puts a sign up in Lansing, I guarantee you it's under contract immediately. And it doesn't matter what size they are. I totally believe there's a need for this kind of housing. It's EMS and people, blue collar, and people that can't afford a $600,000, $700,000 like most of us can. But there's a need out there in that area. It's a supply and demand. One thing about Tonganoxie is they use an RHID, and they have built things down there, and they've been rolling. RHID didn't become a big issue until all of a sudden Lansing started doing it. People have been using this because it's a tool that's not available. It's now available for the state. Again, I think this is a good program. People can use numbers any way they want. People can question things they want. We've all done our homework up here for the most part, and we're allowed to have different opinion on these issues. But I think there's my 40 years in Lansing, I know there's a need out there.
Okay, can I continue?
Yes, Mike, please.
So I understand that that's your opinion.
Yes.
But when we're making these decisions, we have to be objective. And I just read to you what the housing study says. So that's my first threshold issue would be that I question the fact that this is the type of housing that is needing to have government incentives provided for it. So I have some additional questions. On your, this is for you, Mark. Find the right page here. There was a section in here where you talked about the number of developments, 217 single-family homes, and you talked about how you came to your numbers. There we are. Okay, you stated that you took into account EMS, sheriff, county attorney, courts, appraiser, roads, health, and council on aging. And then you stated, I did not apply any kind of increase in cost of service over the 15-year period. So do we have any kind of indication what the increased cost per year would be? Would that track with the rate of inflation? Or how, if we were going to make an estimate on that increased rate of cost, what would we look to?
Yeah, so yes, I think a rate of inflation as far as an increase in cost is probably reasonable. That's what we try to stick to when we can. However, not all of those services are based off of taxes. So like half of EMS is based off of fees. That's why I did not apply that, because I don't think I can come up with a number that I could reasonably defend as far as an increase. But I also did not apply any kind of an increase to the sales tax that we would be generating. I left that as flat, and we know historically there's approximately a 2 to 3% increase in sales tax over the years, and also motor vehicle and so on. So I tried to leave it all flat because I was trying to have something that I could reasonably defend if I needed
So
to.
even though you did leave it flat and you're trying to have kind of an algorithm or a formula.
Something I could apply to everybody equally whenever these applications.
But we do all know, everybody in this room knows that there's going to be an increase in cost.
There would be an increase in cost, but there would also be some increase in sales tax and other income as well to offset.
And so for these figures, the increase in cost is not calculated.
Correct. That's correct.
So that's a piece. There's another piece of this. I had the planning and zoning folks make a list of all the subdivisions that have gone in Leavenworth County in the last 5 years. 243 homes, 12 subdivisions have been built. None of those were given, and I think I'm not speaking out of tone. I don't know that I don't believe any of the ones that they enclosed here were given any kind of incentives. I'm looking to see if the first Tonganoxie one was in 2017, so it's not on here. So that's 243 homes, and here's my question. In your figures, we're not getting any kind of a view of the opportunity cost for taxation that would be garnered if we did not exempt or rebate these taxes. And so on these 243 homes that were built, we got the full tax to the county, to the city, to the schools for roads, bridges, and infrastructure. But on these exempted, this 179 proposal, that tax will go away and will go proportionally to the developer. So the question I have is, in this figure, in the write-up that you had here, we did not measure the opportunity costs for the county to gather to have additional revenue.
No, it doesn't. To calculate that number, I would have to make an assumption that the development would occur at the rate that it's going to occur with the incentive. So I don't come up with that number because, as they've stated, they don't anticipate that the development would happen, or at least not as quickly if there was no incentive. So yes, you're correct. I do not take that into consideration.
You stated here that, therefore, I believe there is the potential that this development may cause pressure on other new home sales in the area. Adding approximately 40 homes per year to the current market could impact the ability to sell other new homes not in an RHID. You also state that you do not believe the proposed incentive will lower the price of the homes. I don't see it going down either because they're appreciating. But you end that line and you said, therefore, I believe the pressure will be market-based and will not create unfair advantage. So the word unfair advantage, when I'm looking at this entire area of incentives and giving incentives, I'm thinking, where is, when we say unfair advantage, how do we measure objectively? And that's what I've been struggling through on these, is how do we measure objectively what's an unfair advantage? Because these 243 folks here that just built subdivisions out in the county, they didn't get incentives. They paid their full taxes. So the question, is that fair and unfair? What's fair and unfair here?
Right. So let me talk about the reason I made that statement. One, comparing development inside the city to development outside the city probably is unfair because they don't have to put in the same streets, the same sidewalks, the same stormwater, and the same sewer that you do. And that's why all these developers go outside. Also, there's a bigger market. They can sell the homes for a lot more. The unfair advantage I'm referring to, though, here is that these houses are going to sell for the same price that a house down the street sells for or that a house somewhere else sells for. They're not going to be subsidized house prices so that it's a market-based selling point. And part of that is because they're not using this incentive to do the vertical construction. They're not using this incentive to do the lot improvements. They're only using it for the public improvements, which all the developers would have. So the house price is going to be market-based, $310,000. Any house anywhere else is going to sell for a similar amount. That's why I didn't believe it would be unfair in that instance. I think the first application that we saw would have definitely created an unfair advantage for the River Bend, and that's why we had that statement in my analysis. In this case, I think these will be market-based and therefore competitive in the market.
So ultimately, I appreciate that. That makes sense to me. But when I'm looking at this and I'm looking at fair or unfair, and I think we had our folks out in the county, our local builders, they paid full price, they paid full taxes, they took all, and I still believe that it is proper to say risk, because I think when a developer develops, he doesn't get any incentives at all, he certainly is taking a risk that he's going to lose the farm, and it's not going to work out, and many of them don't work out. In this case, we're taking public sector monies and using a portion of that to do the things that a private developer would normally do. And that is taking away some of the risk. So I'm not going to back away from that statement. You had another statement in here. You said that there are factors other than financial that may create an adverse impact on the county, but financially speaking, I do not believe there will be an adverse impact. So I'm looking at the other factors, and I think certainly one of them would be fairness. Is this fair? Is this fair to the taxpayer? Is this fair to everybody in the county? And other thing with fairness is could this be construed as a misutilization of taxes by diverting them in this fashion? I think that's an issue. Also, the folks that live in that area came and brought a very good point, in my opinion. If they don't feel that the housing development proposed matches the character of the neighborhood adjacent, they have made a very good point, because when we do land use decisions, we're always balancing whether this matches the character of the neighborhood. And if it doesn't, then we're using the power of government here, the power to rebate taxes, to incentivize building homes that don't match the character of the neighborhood, according to the folks in Lansing. So I think that's a concern that I have. I have some other concerns that I want to address later. I won't keep going, but this letter from the attorney, there's quite a few issues that are there, but maybe they'll come up later.
I don't think so. Any other? Because that being said, make a motion that the proposed reinvestment housing incentive district does not have an adverse effect on Leavenworth County, and move to allow the creation of the Monroe Manor RHAD as proposed. Can I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Well, let me get my second. Let me take a second first.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second. We have to go through this one first.
No, I'm going to make a substitute motion to your motion, and that would be that because I don't want to have to vote twice.
Can you do that?
Excuse me. That's not. You can't. That's not. You can't do that.
Yes, we can.
Well, no, in a second.
Just hold on.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so we would have the vote on that unless the motion maker and the second would agree to a substitute.
And I'm not doing that. So
Well, let me bring you the issue. The issue is last time we had to vote twice. If we worded in a way that we should word it in that it has an adverse effect on the county, and then we only have to vote once. Because I don't want to have to vote twice.
Well, if it doesn't fly, you're going to have the opportunity. But
to vote again?
Yeah, because
why should we do that?
Because if it doesn't fly, then we're going to want to do something with it. Just dies. But right now, we've got a motion that I think this is a good idea, and we've already got a second. We can't bring another one up according to the attorney, and I'm going to call the roll.
Well, no.
Yes.
No, we have discussion.
Go ahead.
We have discussion.
Go ahead.
We do not just
go ahead,
have
Michael.
the motion and then
take
call
the
the roll.
floor again for the roll.
I want to ask a point of inquiry is. It was my impression that that a substitute motion could be offered even when there is a current motion on the floor.
You can offer a substitute motion, but you would need the agreement of the person who made the motion and the second to substitute the motion.
Can an amended motion be offered?
So I think you can do that, but we have to finish this motion first.
Right.
But we're in discussion right now,
Right.
so
Right.
you can go ahead and discuss what you're planning on.
Okay, it was my impression. Okay, we'll discuss the parliamentary stuff. I thought that was.
But you can go ahead and discuss what you're talking about right
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
before
so
we take the vote. Because I have something too I'd like to say before we vote.
Go ahead. You want me to go or you go?
You go first.
Okay. And the only reason I said that was because I just didn't think we would want to vote twice.
I understand.
The way it's
ahead.
worded is
right ahead.
having to have us. If we do vote it down, we have to vote it down twice, and I don't think that was. I want to talk about a couple other things in this letter and in the agreement. And I don't know who would answer this, Mr. Lawford, maybe you. There's a portion in this contract that says if there's an overage on the amount that's paid, that would go to the city. How is the actual funding handled once it's collected by the treasurer and sent over? Is it placed into an account? Can you kind of go through the logistics of these? And if there was an overage, what happens to that?
Well, Commissioner, actually, the city is the administrator of the program. So the taxes come in, and then the county distributes it to the city, and the city oversees the authorization of expenditures and distribution. So then they would distribute our share back. But Tim's still here, so you could ask Tim on how they plan to administer it at the city. But I'm not familiar with their inner operations.
I can, if you'd like to hear, I can comment on what's in the development agreement part of this.
I read it. I can quote it to you, but I don't want to.
Yeah, no, it's okay. There'll be an account set up, that's the Monroe Manor RHID account, where once the taxes are in the treasurer, then they'll filter those into this account, and then we have to make a formal request to actually get the funds out of there, and we can do that up to twice a year to request the funds. This kind of goes back to there's no funds coming to the developer unless there's funds there to extract. And so there's an account sitting there that's specifically for these dollars that are generated for this district.
And there's two dates, like one was August 10th. I mean, they're distributed.
Right. To show proof, to city levels that those were costs that were incurred, that they were eligible costs, and all of that, they check out.
Right. Okay, and at the end of the term of the RHID, when you reach your cap, or let's say you completed your under budget, what happens to that money?
It's not necessarily tied to budget. It's tied to we're agreeing to a specific amount,
right,
and a term. And once those are, and you might be able to.
Once the sooner of those is hit, then we're sorry. So, if there is extra money that is in the account and that goes above and beyond what our maximum is, either allowed or we do not have any more eligible costs to reimburse, then those monies would be redistributed to the taxing jurisdiction, so they don't just get held by the city. Those monies can only go two places. One, to reimburse for the actual eligible costs, or if there are no costs to reimburse anymore, then they have to be returned to the tax-paying jurisdictions from which they were taken.
Okay, because I read that part in the contract and I didn't quite understand it, but I appreciate that answer. This is from your letter, so you'll probably be the one that can answer it really well.
Do my best.
Okay, on page number 2, you stated, this category will typically involve medium-density solutions or some form of assistance with development costs such as RHIDs. These infrastructure tax increment or tax abatement programs may also be used as incentives or risk abatement measures.
I'm sorry, sir.
It would appear that it right there we're saying.
So those are not my words. Those are the words taken from the Lansing. Are you speaking about the boxed area?
Yes, the boxed area.
So those are not my words. Those are words taken from the Lansing Housing Study.
So, but so right there, the Lansing Housing Study is admitting that it's a risk abatement measures. So that's my point I was trying to make, is this is the government reducing risk.
Well,
I don't think there's any way around it. I think that's the way. I
think RHID is a little bit different. They speak to different. This isn't really a tax abatement program. It is an increment program, but the thing with it is, as Roman pointed out, this isn't taking any money from anything that is not generated by this development. If this development does not generate any taxes, then we don't grab. No one. The city of Lansing does not grab the taxes from somewhere else. So if tomorrow, our dealings fall through with our home builders and not a thing gets built, or down the road the houses do not seem to be marketable, and we are not able to generate taxes from this specific piece of property, then we're out of luck. Then we're not generating anything, and we're watching the clock with our development agreement for Lansing, knowing that we've got whatever our costs, reimbursement costs, but we're not generating enough, then we lose out on that. We don't get that money. It doesn't come from another city source. It doesn't come from another county source. All the RHID revenues have to be generated within this project from the work that my clients and the home builders do. If they don't put in that work, and then those tax dollars are never get generated, and we don't get the reimbursement from that. So that's why I do think that it really is a full risk thing, because no money is coming from any other sources. If we don't do the work to generate the taxes from this area, then we don't get the benefit of it.
But the taxpayer's paying for the infrastructure.
The taxpayers.
That's why it's not entirely. You're not taking the full risk
within the development. But if we do not build homes and bring in new taxpayers, then there is no. But it doesn't come from anything existing. This is all new.
I think that's semantic, but RHID is a type of a TIF.
It's akin to one. Sure.
Well, I believe it's in the category. I believe it's a type.
Yeah,
of
it operates in a very similar way.
Well, when I was reading the statute, that's what it looked like.
I mean, you're generating the tax increments.
So the statute on RHID says the express purpose of RHID is to encourage the development of renovation of housing in cities and counties of Kansas by authorizing cities and counties to assist directly in the financing of public improvements that will support such housing in areas of Kansas that experience a shortage of housing.
Yes.
Is it your position that Leavenworth County is experiencing a shortage of housing?
It's the position of the Lansing Housing Study that the city of Lansing is experiencing a shortage of housing.
Of certain types of housing, correct? I mean, I read you what it said. It didn't say that we experience it overall. In fact, it said that they have a good supply of housing.
Commissioner Stephen, are you proposing that you would prefer an RHID for a $600,000 home price in Lansing?
I'm proposing that we don't use the taxpayers' dollars for risking this on this type of a incentive when we don't need. I've talked to two bankers down from the south part of the county, and they told me, don't do this. We do not need this. We have plenty of rural subdivisions and subdivisions very close to where this subdivision is that are not being incentived. So why would we use the power of government to pick winners and losers of who's going to develop at location X or location Y?
I respond to it this way. Some comments were given earlier about letting the market decide, and that the market has figured it out. And I believe in this case, your Lansing Housing Study has shown you that the market is deciding and has decided, and that housing in this area is not being developed at the levels that are needed for this area. And you have your state representatives, you have your city of Lansing, you have elected school board officials, elected officials at all those levels who have made that same determination that in this case, this type of incentive project is a worthwhile investment for the county and for the city of Lansing. And that they want to make that, that's the reasons why they support this program and that they support this particular application.
Well, I'm going to read the Lansing Housing Study conclusion one more time, and maybe we're not hearing this. This is the objective document that we're supposed to make these decisions on, and it states, overall, the city has a very good supply of moderately priced homes, but it appears to have an undersupply of higher-end homes for a city with Lansing's income characteristics. So when we have a very good supply of moderately priced homes, why would we use the power of government to incentivize when half this county is already tax exempted? People didn't send me up here to tax exempt this county into the poorhouse when all I hear about is property taxes. And when we're going to take less people and make it so that folks are exempted,
so
that means we all pay higher taxes.
So I take it back when I said you could go first. Can I go? Because what I said might help you figure out what you're doing.
Right.
Can I go, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So I think part of what's happening here today is some people are trying to get the county commission to say no to this because they don't agree with Lansing City or the school board saying yes to this. Two things. I don't agree with the way legislation was passed where the county can veto the whole deal if we don't agree to it. If the city agrees to this and says it's okay with them, they can absorb the difference in taxes getting paid up front to reap the benefits later. Then that's up to them. If the school board says it's okay with them to absorb the students and the money, then that's up to them. I don't like that the county can just say no and it kills the whole deal. So I think that part of legislation needs to be changed, but that'll take some while to get changed. So until then, we're basically just saying the county is basically saying the county budget has been so irresponsibly chopped and cut over years and years. We are now 56% exempt from property tax. So the budget has been chopped and cut so much that 56% exemption has painted us into a corner where we can't absorb things like this. We're just trying to figure out how to get $10,000 to put up stop signs. Where are we going to find $10,000? It sounds like a little. And each one of these RIDs is just a little bit. That's what they always say. They're like, well, yeah, it's an exemption. It's a subsidy that you're not going to get taxes, but it's just a little bit. Every one of these, I just read 22 pages of exemptions the other day. Every one of those was passed the same way, just saying, oh, it's just a little bit. I understand this is a little bit. So what I would like to see, I wish, we could just say, we can't absorb this, but if the city and the school can, then they can go ahead and not get their money. Or that's fine with us, but we can't absorb the money that we're not getting. So my vote would be contingent on if the county can be made whole. So from the numbers that our county administrator has put together, we're only talking about $50,000 for this upfront amount over the first 4 years that we would be missing. So if the developer would agree to make the county whole, so your point, we're missing this money. We can't afford to miss this money. Why are we subsidizing contractors, blah, blah, blah. If the developer would just agree to make the county whole, we don't have to change the legislation. We could accept like a pilot check in lieu of what you're not paying the county. Go ahead and don't pay the school. Go ahead and don't pay the city. If they said that's okay, that's fine. But the county cannot absorb any more of these. Every single time we pass an exemption, that money doesn't go away. That bill doesn't go away. It just means everybody else that's still paying has to pay a little bit more. And I understand the concept you have to spend money to make money, 100%. You spend a little bit now, you're going to reap $1.8 million a year down the road. I get that. But my point is we have chopped our budget so much. And I've told these developers, pick a county that's not 56% exempt. Because the county budget side of this is too tight to absorb things like this. It's not just one. There's a dozen of these lined up. We could say one. We could say okay to maybe one or two, but we can't say yes to a dozen of these or 20 of these or hundreds of acres of these. There's no way. We're trying to find $10,000. So we're going to say okay, we're going to present $50,000 here just because the city and the school said so. That's the problem I have. So if we could, my motion was going to be, if we could get a pilot check to make the county whole, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate what you said. I look at it maybe it's a little bit different. When you talk about some of these tax exempt things, this is going forever. To me, this is an investment. You're going to see some reward.
Make money, spend money to make money.
You take to make some down the line.
Yeah.
If this was just an exempt and we didn't get anything, I'm with you. Yeah. But as I see, after 4 or 5, 6 years, everybody that's involved in this, city, county, and
I agree with you.
A school starts seeing, and I think you have to invest. When I was part of bringing IHOP, Quick Trip, all those places on Main Street, when we got a grant to do Main Street, there was a negotiation. You have to be willing to take one. And I hear this thing all the time about, well, you know, you're giving money away or something like that. How do you make a decision on who gets it done? Every one of them, I've said this before, every one of these projects are different. And it's up to us as elected people, as the City of Lansing as elected folks, and as the USD 469 to make that decision. And I think we've had a good conversation on this. And it sometimes gets emotionally charged, but I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I just think this, in my opinion, is the best way to approach it.
And I agree with exactly everything you said. But my point is, the county budget is that tight.
Well, I
can't get that point across to everybody. If you want to write a pilot check to make the county whole, I have no problem with this. But I can't complain about all the exemptions and then rubber stamp another one. That's my problem.
Okay.
Can I respond to that? Or
yeah,
comments?
Go ahead.
I think I think it's been thrown into a bucket of exemptions, and they're not equal. What you're referring to as an expense, this is not an expense. This is not an expense. This is a opportunity for us to invest, the developer to invest, to create an opportunity for you to fix the budget things that you're talking about. You've got problems, you've said. That's not from my assessment, but yours. You've got budget problems. This is an opportunity to add on average, if you look throughout, it's over $300,000 a year. You want a $10,000 sign? You got money for that now. You stay status quo, you're still going to be scrapping for $10,000 signs. So I guess that would be my point, is this is not an exemption.
The first 4 years?
This is not an
But it's
exemption.
still not an exemption
You're not
because
paying
the
anything.
taxes do get paid.
It's a rebate.
They get, but they
It's not a
go
rebate.
into infrastructure.
It's not a rebate or an exemption.
Okay, so
Do you have something else? Go
if
ahead.
we send the ambulance to a house in that subdivision in that first 4 years, who pays for that?
That's the money that's being generated by those houses pays for that.
In the first 4 years.
There's still being money generated. It's not of you pay us and then you hopefully get homes later. Nobody gets anything until the homes are built and taxed. So there is no exemptions, there is no expense.
All the services that this subdivision needs for those first 4 years, they're not paying for those services.
Sure they are. They're
Everybody
paying it through
else is.
sales taxes, through other motor vehicle
County
taxes
does
and
not
things
get
like
sales
that.
tax.
Very small amount.
Okay.
No, but residents do.
44.5%.
Yes, but the county doesn't. That's exactly my point. The county budget does not reap the benefits from this. That's why it's a deficit for us this first 4 years.
The county budget would receive the benefit of residents living there that shop in your stores.
We do not.
Well,
That
you
is
probably-
exactly my point.
Okay. Jeff, you got it? You good? Okay, Mike?
That's all I got.
Thank you, Jeff.
So, okay, I'm going to start. Let's go back to rudimentary subdivisions, and let's talk, Mr. Lawfrey. When a subdivision comes in, one of these subdivisions that's coming, one of these 243 homes that's been built in 12 subdivisions over the last 5 years, without incentives, explain to us and for the public how that works as far as taxation. Where do those when it gets built? Who builds the infrastructure, and then where does the taxation go?
Right. So, are you talking about subdivisions in the rural area? Or
Yeah, I'd just say in the
so
rural
just
area.
say a rural subdivision. So, a developer comes in, buys the lot, buys the ground, goes through the platting process. Obviously, sells the lots. Builder comes in, builds the homes, and then they go on the tax rolls. Right. That's what you're. Okay.
Right.
So then taxes are collected, and there is 100% of it is distributed out. A portion of it goes to the township. A portion of it would go to the school. A portion would go to the county.
So now we have an RHID subdivision, same subdivision. Explain how the tax monies are handled now.
Well, we get to the same point, and the money would be collected. The taxes are collected by the county treasurer. Then it is distributed back to whoever is managing the RHID. In this case, in your scenario, it would be us. If we had a rural area, it would have to be a county RHID. Then we would, assuming we had some kind of an agreement that it wasn't 100% back to the developer, we would distribute the portion that was local taxation to the taxing entities, and then we would review their request for expenditures, make sure that it met the agreement.
So, for instance, if it was an 80-20
It
split,
was 80-20. 20% would go to the taxing districts that we would distribute out to them. 80% could go back to the developer if the developer had provided eligible expenditures for that
And
amount.
eligible expenditures in this case would be the infrastructure for the public.
The roads, the streets, the stormwater, yeah.
Okay, so let's take another RHID. The eligible expenditures could also be for.
Well, let's
Is
do
that-
let's do River Bend.
Yeah.
There, if that would have been approved, then you could have reimbursed them for eligible expenditures, including the improvements to the lots and purchase of the land and so on and so forth.
So back to what we were saying. It very clearly that the part of the money that these folks paid, 80% is going to pay for infrastructure so that you don't have to pay for it. It's the public sector shifting the burden from the public sector or away from the private sector to the public sector, so the taxpayer is paying for the infrastructure. And that's how, when I say we're reducing the risk to the developer, The reason we're reducing the risk to the developer is because the taxpayer now is paying for that infrastructure, where in these, they're not. So that's I mean, I think you're chafing at the word risk, but that's what I mean by risk is that amount. So I won't keep going, but I will tell you this: there are some of these that I could support if it is truly in a blighted area. This one here, we've mentioned it several times, this one has a very large scale. This is 179 homes.
But would you be inclined to vote for any of these if the county was made whole on their part?
And when we brought that up, if you would just let the county get a pilot check for the taxes from the county, I certainly would support that. But I don't think there's much of an appetite for that.
That's always something to think about, Mike. Okay, is that it, Mike?
That's it.
Okay, any other commissioner? We've got a motion and a second. We will start with Commissioner Stephen.
No. How did you word your motion?
It's number 2, Mike. Consider a motion that proposed reinvestment housing incentive district does not have an adverse effect on the Leavenworth County and move to allow the creation of the Monroe Manor RHID as proposed.
So you're saying it does not have an adverse effect. So I say it does, so I would vote no.
Okay. Yes.
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 No.
Okay, passes 3-2. Thank you for everybody on both sides of this issue for input. We're going to take a 10-minute recess because I'm an old guy.
I knew that was going to happen.
Let's go ahead and get started. Next item is a hearing of annexation 2 county-owned lots of the city of Easton, Kansas by resolution 2025-04.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to table the Easton annexations. I found out this morning the township fire departments haven't had a chance to work out their MOUs, so
I'll second that. I think I need some more time to get a good
and
meeting of the
now
two.
we're going to make it a date certain.
Okay. Okay. Got any discussion on table on that? Okay. We need to call a roll on that, correct?
Was there? Sorry.
I
Was
make a
there?
motion that we table the Easton annexations, both of them. They're two
Yeah,
separate
there's 2 of
ones,
them on there.
but, yeah, do the first one.
Second.
Is that what you're asking?
I couldn't hear about the date certain.
I was going to not make it to a date certain.
There's some homework to do.
Just lay it on the table.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from the township fire departments. I don't know how long it'll take for them to work out their MOU.
Yeah.
On the petition for the island annexation, I received a copy of the consent yesterday, so statutorily we should do it at least within 30 days.
Okay.
It says to a date certain, right, on our, or?
Correct.
Okay, so
Make a date.
4 meetings from today.
Yeah.
What date is that?
Would that be within 30 days?
Oh, just pick a date.
Yeah.
Hold on. The county counselor is going to pick a date.
I'm looking at my calendar.
Vanessa, does it say it has to be within 30 days or?
Within 30, isn't it, Vanessa?
I think.
November 5th.
Would that make it?
When?
Was it
today?
coming today? 4 weeks?
Is that November 5th?
Yeah, it'd be less than 30 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
November 5th, is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
Go ahead and second.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
The next thing we've got is Leavenworth County Treasurer's expenditures. Come on down, big guy. Good morning. Every time you come up here, you have to wait. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're good. Good to see everyone.
Okay.
Good to see you also.
Hearable here. Everybody hear me okay?
Gotcha.
So after going through the office's expenditures from 2016 to 2023 and filtering that data through statutes and Attorney General opinions, it created some questions. I'm not an attorney. I'm not the decider on what the answers to these questions are, so I filtered my questions through the Lloyd Group, the Kansas County Treasurers Association, and the County Kansas Treasurers Association's attorney. And they confirmed that my questions are valid. They're valid questions that someone needs to answer. There are certain expenditures that have the appearance of being in conflict with the way that other counties are spending their special funds. Additionally, I found a lot of purchases that had vague descriptions, such as office supplies at Al, I always try to at least include the vendor names on those, and if it's larger purchases such as computers or printer parts, I like to be more specific so someone down the road can see what the money was spent on. I don't currently know of anything in place in the approval process that can scrutinize these purchase orders, either to the validity or compliance with statutes. I'm in favor of you considering a position of a county auditor. An example would be when the Missouri government was set up, they created a county auditor for every county, and a lot of what they do is address many of my concerns. Kansas was not set up with elected auditors. That's not how our government was set up. Yeah. But I do believe that I can see that it would be a valuable position for transparency. Anything questionable that came up could be scrutinized by that person, then it could become transparent for discussion, or also they could work with our legal staff to determine if this was a good expenditure.
Question.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
So, how many questionable items are we talking about?
Based on what I went through, and I don't think I found everything, but the expenditures that I found that I believe are tied to questions as to whether or not we spent the money out of the correct fund was somewhere in around a little over $261,000.
How much was it?
$261,000.
Okay, thank you.
And what is examples of that? Some of those expenditures.
I can give a few examples. They basically are going to involve our two special funds, which is the motor vehicle fund and the technology fund. Just to set up and as an example of where these questions arise, I'll just give a quick excerpt from Attorney General Opinion 7974, and this involved in paying bonuses to county employees. But it said the conclusion was predicated on a finding that the expenditure of monies from this special fund must bear a reasonable relationship to the purpose for which the fund was created, namely the necessary help and expenses of the Treasurer's Office incidental to the administration of the Motor Vehicle Registration Act, and we affirm that opinion. So a couple of examples I found in the Motor Vehicle Fund. One was between 2016 and 2020, a total of a little over $103,000 was paid for janitorial services. Aside from the fact that the Treasurer's Office really isn't responsible for janitorial services, I question whether this should have been paid out of the Motor Vehicle Fund. Because the question is, was this a necessary help and expense to carry out the Motor Vehicle Registration Act? Additionally, between 2016 and 2018, over $51,000 in tax money was paid to an outside attorney for legal fees. Of that, almost $16,000 was paid for the Motor Vehicle Fund. There was also an interesting one, whether or not anyone agrees with spending the money in the first place. There was a direct TV service for satellite TV. A portion of it was taken from the Motor Vehicle Fund, a portion of it was taken from the Technology Fund. Of the Motor Vehicle Fund, $2,544 that I've found, and it directly ties, I believe, to Attorney General Opinion 79-74. And in that case, they were looking at whether, is that the one? No, that would actually be 2008-11. They were looking at whether or not security cameras could be paid for out of the Motor Vehicle Fund. And they determined that while security cameras are important, when considering whether the installation of a security system is incidental to the administration of the county's treasurer's duties, it does not appear that a security system is a subordinate or plays any role in the collection, generation of the required receipts or depositing the funds collected. That's not to say a security system is not important, only that it appears that it is not incidental to the duties required by the county treasurer to comply with the motor vehicle registration laws. So if security cameras weren't deemed to be a good use of that fund, then I'm curious as to whether direct TV services would be a good use of that fund. I have a couple other examples in the Technology Fund. Technology Fund's laid out in KSA 28-181. basically says that it's to be used for technological services, the storing, recording, archiving, retrieving, maintaining, and handling of data recorded, stored, or generated in the Office of the County Treasurer. One of the items I found, one of the larger expenses we have in the Treasurer's Office is printing and mailing tax statements. We have a general line item in the general budget specifically for our tax statements. Between 2016 and 2022, over $93,000 of that came out of the technology fund. We had some more direct-TV service, desks and furniture, envelopes, kitchen supplies, Kansas Turnpike Authority. And I think the question is, were these items, should they have been taken out of the technology fund, or would they have been better spent out of the general fund?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Why are we paying for DirecTV? I know it's a small amount, but
I mean, I personally wouldn't agree that that's a good use of tax money, but I'm more on the conservative side of spending. So the taxpayers get to decide who's the person spending the money, and I personally probably wouldn't have spent that money on that, but that wasn't me.
where are these particular monitors placed?
At the time, they were at the annex. There was a TV at the annex for customers to watch the news while they waited for their place in line. That's what that was for. I eliminated that when I because I didn't believe that was a good expense.
So that was eliminated when?
I eliminated the DirecTV bill and the television at the end.
And what year was that?
It had been the beginning of 2024.
2024?
2 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
There was one other question in regard to personnel, wages, and benefits. In 2010, there was an Attorney General opinion out of Leavenworth County that allowed the Register of Deeds to spend personnel wages out of their technology fund, but it was predicated on that position would be involved with the same definition of technology as the technology fund. There never was an Attorney General opinion for the Treasurer's Office. Kansas County Treasurers Association, their attorney, accountants, right now maintain that money should not be spent out of the Treasurer's Technology Fund. We don't really have a position in our office that is really well defined by technology. There was a position created of answering the phone, essentially, and between 2020 and 2021, or between 2021 and 22, $32,000 of personnel, wages, and benefits were paid out of the technology fund. So the question is was that okay, or would that have been better spent out of the general fund? Part of what this all did was it spent down the technology fund, so it created less money available for actual technology. This year we had a surprise where I had to purchase 21 new computers and software packages. If I had not been very careful in my spending of the technology fund, then that money would not have been available for that. I saved up a little over $50,000 in my technology fund. I wasn't able to spend all of it because I only budgeted $20,000 for this year, but that $20,000, was available when we needed to purchase computers. And this is really what boils down is I think if there was another set of eyes on all this stuff as it comes through before it made it to you guys for approval, then, if something came up that appeared to be an unnecessary item or appeared to be being spent out of a fund that maybe wasn't the best place, then I think at that point a red flag could be thrown up and it could be discussed prior to being approved, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Caleb, I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
I think I asked you these before. All these expenditures that you're identifying came out of the Treasurer's Department?
Yes, sir.
And they came from the Motor Vehicle Fund and the Treasurer's Tech Fund?
Yes, sir.
Who authorizes those expenditures?
The treasurer puts them on the
Treasurer.
Yeah, the treasurer.
So, according to statute, who has the authority to spend money out of the Motor Vehicle Fund?
It is the treasurer.
Treasurer's full discretion, right?
Yes.
Right. So, the point I brought up to you, and I'm still not 100% on, is whether or not, even if we identified that the expenditure was something we agreed with or didn't agree with, I don't believe that the county commission or other staff could even prevent that from happening. because of that ruling.
Right.
Now, doesn't mean it's right. It just means that's the way that particular fund is set up. I think that's what we talked about.
Right, and my only opinion that would be that if we had someone such as a county auditor position, and they identified this because they were familiar with the statutes and the use of money, that if something came up that appeared to be maybe there's a better place that we could be spending this money out of, they would have the opportunity to discuss it, utilize our county counselors, and possibly even get an attorney general opinion to decide if that was in fact a good use of the money. And I think more than anything, it's just transparency to the public.
And these were expenditures that occurred from
2016 to 2023. So that's why I'm saying over a period of a decade, it's not a huge amount of money once you spread that out. I just feel like it raises questions, and questions that should be answered at some point.
Mike, do you have something to go over?
Yeah, what action item would you like to ask the commission to do on this?
I know that you've been talking about some Doge type things, looking at excess.
We're calling
spending.
it government efficiency.
Government efficiency. Yeah, we're not supposed to use that term. But I think this is a great thing to add to that conversation because, and I can actually send all of you a complete copy of all this stuff, what the line items are, everything I found, a little bit more detail. But then I think as you move forward in the future and you have these conversations, this is something that you can bounce off of to physically see what has occurred in the past and how you might be able to address that in the future as far as just saving money.
I appreciate that. Just one point for Mr. Lawfrey. When we come to do this efficiency, it's going to be voluntary whether elected department heads will be participating.
Well, I think, like we've talked in the past, you approve the budget for the department, all departments, but for the electeds in particular, once the expenditure of those funds come, as long as they follow certain guidelines, they can expend them how they see fit. Especially in the case of the motor vehicle fund, it's particularly challenging. And that's why I wanted to kind of point out, because it specifically, statutorily, the elected county treasurer has the authority to spend money out of there, no one else.
Right.
So that's why that's such a challenge. And obviously, it sounds like Mr. Gordon has addressed those issues. So there's nothing really for the county to do at this point, other than just make sure that the expenditures in the future are appropriately handled. But again, I'm not even sure that the county has the authority to tell the treasurer yes or no on those expenditures. They ultimately answer to the electorate,
right,
and potentially the courts if they violate some statute. But
yeah,
I don't think
got a question on Mark.
that.
Kelly brings up a good point. Even though we do not have the power to tell the elected officials what to do, nor should we have, at budget time, if these items were in front of us and we're setting the budget, then it could be looked at then.
Well,
I'm just throwing it out there.
Not on the motor vehicle
One
fund,
of the problems with
because
that
the motor
is-
vehicle fund is not a budgeted fund.
No, I'm talking about
It's-
any other fund.
The other funds,
Because he
yes.
mentioned a few others too. Then it could be brought out. I'm just throwing it out there, stirring the pot.
But as you know, it gets it into such difficult situation when maybe we lower a budget by $150,000 or something because we don't like position X, Y, or Z as a commission.
Yeah, I agree.
But the elected official does not have to remove that position. They just have to work with less money.
Yeah.
Did I get that correct?
That's true.
That's true, Mike. Yeah, I agree.
As we move forward, I feel like the motor vehicle fund, especially within the next couple of years, we're going to have less money. I still see down the road that this is going to be underfunded. So really needs to be buckled down what's spent out of that fund. It is an unbudgeted fund, and it's controlled by the treasurer, but it has got to last. And the expenses are getting so high that any frivolous spending at all, I think, is going to just continue to cause a greater problem.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of counties that are dealing with that. Actually, I was watching something recently, and there are multiple counties who their motor vehicle fund no longer sustains services that it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And it's called the Motor Vehicle Fund for a reason. It's a state unfunded mandate. The funds that are correct, the funds that are collected in the motor vehicle fund are supposed to pay for the motor vehicle services. However, they no longer will.
Did you get that, Vanessa?
Sedgwick.
I'm taking notes right now.
We need to put that on the website.
Right. Sedgwick County, as an example, is several $100,000 short in their motor vehicle fund. They're having to make that up with ad valorem tax. So.
Yep.
But I'm concerned that Leavenworth County is headed in that direction because of increased funds and no increased funds from the state. But I basically just wanted to bring up, some things that I found that I think raise questions. And I think as you move forward into the future, I just think it'd be great if there was another set of eyes. And I don't think this is a county-wide problem. I think it's kind of a one-off, but you don't know what you don't know if nobody's looking. And if there was a person or a position that had the job of just going through these and making sure everything was on par, I think it'd be beneficial and provide some more transparency to the public.
Appreciate your comment.
May I?
Yes, ma'am, you may.
Really quick. Caleb, I want to thank you for your report today, and just if I'm misphrasing it, please correct me, but what I'm hearing is you're asking for another set of eyes to look at it, recognizing that the treasurer can spend it, but you're not saying that anybody's done anything wrong. It's just that you think maybe some additional oversight in general would be good for the county.
Yeah, exactly. I think,
Yeah,
I have no, I don't have any authority to say whether this was wrong or was not wrong. It just appears that we're certainly not, we haven't been spending the funds in the same way that the other counties in the state of Kansas are. It's not lining up. So my question is if we had another set of eyes on it, we may be able to maybe make some corrections.
So is this going to be your last, is this your last meeting?
This is my last meeting. Since nobody's going to be in the courthouse Monday, I probably won't be here, so that'll probably make Friday my last day.
So, Mr.
Taylor, I appreciate what you've done.
I appreciate it.
Could we have the board get a picture with Mr.
Gladly, Court. Give us little guys time to get down there. Come on.
Trying to make sense of his notes.
Come on, Willie.
Looking and smiling.
Get it, Caleb?
On a positive note, I will mention that if you have almost the entire county on ACH payments now with paperless distribution of documents, and so far it's worked flawlessly.
You the man.
Thank you for your service.
Great to see you guys. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Caleb.
Theirs.
Yes. Okay, Mark, do y'all want to do the work session before we do the executive? Mark, can we do that? Do we have to go?
You can? Yeah.
Let's do the work, if that's okay.
I may have to leave early. If we could do executive first, I would
Okay,
appreciate it.
I need to have everybody in there, so we'll have to go to executive first since Vanessa's got to leave.
We're going to do it.
We're going to do the executive first. Yeah,
Go to the work study information.
Okay, hang in there. I'm doing what I can here. Go ahead.
I move the board recess for a closed executive meeting to allow the commission to discuss the contract of the county administrator, which is a private personnel matter related to a specific non-elected employee in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals discussed as permitted in the Kansas Open Meetings Act. That board may resume open meeting at 11:44. In the meeting room of the board, present in the executive meeting will be Commissioners Mike Smith, Jeff Colbishan, Vanessa Reed, Willie Dove, Mike Stevens, and staff designated by the commission to be present to participate in the discussion.
Second. Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
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 You sound like one of those commercials on TV.
The board has returned to regular session at 11:44 a.m. No action was taken. No decisions were made. The subject was limited to matters related to specific non-elected personnel.
Good job.
110 miles an hour. Very good. Thank you, Vanessa.
Same speed I type.
Now say it backwards.
Okay, we're going to step into the work session now.
Morning, Commissioners. Good morning. In early 2024, the Commission had given staff direction to take a look at new updates for building codes, taking building code from 2006 to a later date building code. We went through a series of meetings with your Code Appeals Board that you chose as the body to choose that. They chose the 2012 IRC and IBC. We brought this to you in May of 2025. You gave us direction to bring it back later on in the year, so we're here again to propose these amendments. They're pretty generic. We are not proposing at this time anything other than a simple code change from 2006 to 2012. There's a bunch of information you'll see in your packet. That was a product of questions that came from the board themselves, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Well, we always start with Mike. Go ahead, Mike. I know
you even let me gather my thoughts.
That's the idea.
I'm just going to bring up the main issue that I have concerns with is we're getting now proliferation of slab houses in the county with the RHIDs, of course. Just approved a whole bunch of them. And it seems to me that our storm safety regulations are not keeping up. And if we continue to move down this path, we're going to go from a position of this year having X number and in 5 years have exponentially more houses that leave people vulnerable to tornado and storm safety. We did not choose to move ahead on any of those last time, except for the fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're going to provide information to the folks that are building.
We will provide options for storm shelters.
Yes.
And recommendations.
My position is that we should have in subdivisions over a certain number of houses that we should either have a required playhouse with a basement or a location for people to go or a requirement for a safe room. I think it's when the tornado comes, you're going to remember that this was said.
So you had actually asked that question during the last meeting. Kyle, can you give him the information on how many structures have been built in Leavenworth County, I believe, over the last 18 months?
So I was able to go back with our current permitting system. Since July of 2020, there have been a total of 569 single-family residences built. 246 of those do not have a basement, so 43%. Now, of those 246, we don't track if they have a safe room or tornado shelter, but there are 246 slab homes.
And how many of those are included the RHIDs there in Tonganoxie?
This is only unincorporated Leavenworth County.
Only out in the
yes.
county. So that doesn't include the city.
Each city permits their own,
Okay.
so we will not have those numbers.
Okay, so this is just out in the county.
And our code does not, they are not subject to our code.
Well, that's true, Kyle. How many opposing jurisdictions or surrounding jurisdictions have a requirement for basement?
I have called 7 different surrounding counties, got answers from 5 of them, and none of them require storm shelters. There were 2 that I got no call back from.
At this particular time.
It's time to get up on the cutting edge because we're going to have more storms and we're going to have more people. And we're moving down the route. We're going to have a lot more houses on slabs.
But if they're within city limits, they won't be subject to ours unless you can get the cities
But
to
I'm saying
follow along.
We provide leadership, though.
Yes.
When we make a regulation, then hopefully the cities would follow suit.
We understand, Commissioner.
You want to say anything? Willie?
No.
Jeff, can you add to that? Mike, you got another question?
Are we going to include? I don't want to offend my fellow commissioner here. He knows what I'm going to ask. Currently, we're not including 2 townships in the.
We have not made that recommendation.
So did the Codes Committee consider it?
They did consider it.
And they decided not to make that recommendation.
I'd have to go back and take a look at that.
The Codes Committee recommended for all of Leavenworth County to be on the same code. But they understood that it currently is not that way, and it's ultimately your decision of.
So my position is that the entire county should be underneath the the building
Code,
codes.
yeah.
Go ahead.
From a staff perspective, while I understand your point, when and if inspections become part of this program down the road, it might be a practical time to take a look at that again. The verification of inspection and a county-wide code somewhere down the line when the county can afford a building department, which is not today, might be a prudent time to reconsider that.
But we still have the rest of the county on it, correct?
Yes, and it is a voluntary compliance.
On it, we're not going to include everybody.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Why are we going to include part of the county if we're not going to include everybody?
No, again, that's a board decision.
For that time period, it was for economic development. That was what it was stated, and we've left it go for. Has it been 4 years?
I don't think quite.
Yeah, it's been 4 years. When I came on, it was like this. It's been about 5. And I understand what Jeff and his point wanted to do it, but I just have a tough time when we're enforcing in one part of the county. We're not enforcing the other, even though we want to see growth up north.
That's an interesting word you use, enforce, because what I was going to bring up is I can show you dozens of houses that got built in the last 5 years when we did this. Implemented building codes in the county, dozens of houses that were not built to code because we don't have an inspection component to this. And unless you have an inspection component, why do you have a rule? It's going to cost you a lot of money to add that inspection component that we don't have. And another thing I wanted to say is people build in the county for a reason, and the building codes is a big one.
Sure is.
You're adding a lot of expense to kids that are building a new house, their first house, people that can barely afford to build a house on top of the taxes. You're going to add extra expense by imposing these building codes. And the original building codes was brought up by somebody that wasn't even in this county. It was an outside contractor. I was here when this all initiated. An outside vendor, contractor, came in and sat right there and said, you guys don't have building codes? We can't make any money like that. So you guys need to impose building codes. And that's what it was all about.
I guess the only thing, and Jeff, I appreciate it, I guess where's our responsibility lie to when people's building things as far as safety?
And my answer to that is you can hire an inspector. When you go buy a house, you hire an inspector. If that wasn't built to code, that inspector tells you that, and you move on to the next one. It has nothing to do with keeping people safe and forcing them to build houses to code to make sure they don't buy a house that wasn't built to code. It doesn't even make any sense. Don't buy the house. You hire inspectors that can tell you if it was built to code or not, and then you move on to the next one.
So we did, when we implemented this, request that it be documented in some way that at least somebody signed off that they built the home to code.
And that's my point.
So
I'm not going to call them all out, but I can show you dozens of houses that have been built in the last 5 years that were not built to code in the districts that have building codes.
But they're not complying with the law.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that, I mean, the reputable builders that I've talked to and a lot of the contractors that I've talked to, they say they're way, way out in front of us on the codes. When we said 2006 codes, they said, oh no, we're building up to much higher standards of codes. And the average price of a house out in the county when we had the appraiser in here is well over $400,000. So we're not talking, there's not a lot of kids buying new houses. I mean, their first house isn't out in the county usually unless they're rich.
But barn homes, for example, you basically are saying no more barn homes because it is very difficult to build a barn home to code unless you spend just about as much money as a stick-built house. So you're not gaining anything. You just eliminated anybody being able to build a barn home for the first house.
Well, I don't know about that. I can't address barn homes, but are barn homes a particular code issue?
Well, their structure, depending on the type of construction, is substantially different from a standardly built house. You don't typically have a wood frame exterior wall. You've got a post and beam type construction with a diaphragm. So it does take a considerable amount of engineering and some additional cost to make that barn home code compliant.
But they are signing off, the folks that are building barn homes in Livermore County are signing off that they did comply with
every single person that gets a single-family building permit in Leavenworth County is required to sign an affidavit that says they will build to the current minimum code standard, which is 2006 IRC.
So we can't hire an army of inspectors, but we, at least as a county, we're telling people that we have an expectation, if you build in Leavenworth County, that you build up to code. That's basically, we're not going to become Johnson County and have multiple inspectors. Maybe at some point we'll have more than we have right now, more of a structured system than we have right now. But the real issue is, if you're going to have codes, I think those 2 townships in the north should be included. I don't think it's appropriate to have 2 townships that are not included.
It's no different than a zoning map. You have different zones. You have a residential zone, a commercial zone. You have a building code zone and a non-building code zone.
Well, we need to make a decision because they've been working on this, seems like dinosaur days. So we got to get this resolved. Either we let it go for now, we come back in a few years or whatever, but this document's been on our plate for such a long time, so we really need to give them direction.
So I'll just make a motion so we can make a decision that we include Kickapoo and Easton Township in Leavenworth County building codes.
You have a second? Second. Motion second. And I hate to say this, but any more discussion? If not, start the roll call. Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Passes 3-2.
We're going to move forward with the public hearing, Commissioner, and with these recommendations. So we'll set that public hearing date and bring it back to you for formal adoption.
Okay.
Thank you.
We just want to get off this. Okay. Mike, do you have anything else? Please say no.
No.
I don't have anything else, Willie.
No.
Vanessa?
I do. Thank you so much for asking.
You said you had to leave.
I'm going to be late just for you, actually.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to thank the county for allowing us and thank the chair for going along with and Miss Matt Cedar in our county commission office. But if you have kiddos that aren't in class, October 31st, 10 to noon, we're going to be in the lobby. So please come and see us, and we'll have treats. Thank you.
What are you going to be dressed
Vanessa, you need funding for that? You need money?
If you want to donate anything,
I'll give you some.
bring it in, and we'll
I'll just
we'll
give it
put
to
it
you.
to good use.
I'll give it to some. They used to do it years ago. I think it's a great thing. COVID took it all down, and Mike, you stay out of the candy bowl. But anyway, Vanessa, you have anything else?
I will be in costume, even if it's just as scary as being a county commissioner.
Well, I tell you, one
You'd address the county commissioner.
I got to judge the pumpkins at Vanessa's husband thing, and that I really enjoyed that. And she was in costume then too. So, anything else, Vanessa?
Thank you.
You've done enough. Jeff, you got anything? Okay.
Are you going to wear your flag?
We got a motion to adjourn. Is that what?
Adjourn. A motion to adjourn.
Second. Mike. Yes, aye.
Yes.
Willie. Vanessa.
Aye.
Jeff.
Go have lunch.